Good day, YouTubers, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls from all around the world. We continue with the Soleil Royal. I got a shout out from Artesia Latina. They wanted to put my videos on their website or whatever, their channel. Thank you very much for that. That's a great accomplishment. So leaving off in our last video, we put, I got a lot of boards up here for the next few steps, but we put the planking on this piece here. That's for the bowsprit. And then we took a number 2 pencil and the ruler, and we did a pencil line in between the seam of each of the plank boards that we put on there. And after a little bit of sanding and grinding, we got that to fit in there pretty good. We'll glue that up. Then we got a bunch of the other steps ahead here on the screen. These pieces 44, an extension above the other ones that were there. And that's just sitting there right now. I haven't glued any of these other ones yet. I'm just getting my pieces cut out of the plywood and trying to understand where they go and how they're oriented. We did get 42 there in the middle glued on. And 46 and 45 are these cross braces on that end. Then it takes us back over to the bow end and a bunch of pieces that get cut out of the plywood in that area. None of this is glued up here yet, but 48, 51, 47 is the side pieces. And 52, there's one I missed. It looks like 52 goes right in here. Yeah, it lines up with these two ribs. So we got to cut that one out. And then after we do some gluing, we're not going to glue the side ones because it tells us not to on the side, but it does tell us to glue these ribs in the middle. So we'll have to do that all the way down. 52 is one I missed, and then it wants us to start putting some plank boards across there. WS1, we'll have to find that in the parts list. But over here on the cutting board, Need to find 52. Hmm. 71, 74. I would have thought it looked something like that, but I don't see. I'm going to have to find 52. Get that cut out. And start gluing up some of the places that it tells us to glue. It's when you're following these instructions. Let me zoom in here. You can see for like 44 it tells us not to glue it, but the two cross ribs 45 and 46 that go in there to hold 44 out to the frames of the ship, it tells you to glue them. So you got to watch that as you go along. I'm not familiar with the reasoning behind that yet, but I'm sure we'll find out. And when it tells us to put certain pieces in, which is that support beam there, not to glue, and I'm assuming that's for adjustment until we get further down and make sure all the ribs stay lined up, the frame members. So keep that in mind if you're building this ship. Some places don't glue and other places you do glue. So let's find that 52 and get that in there. It might be two pieces. Yeah, it looks like two pieces, doesn't it? We gotta find that. Okay, so we got all our spots that are supposed to be glued up, and the framing members in there to hold the deck boards later on. Then they had us do this one 3mm by 3mm to fill in this area here. So I'm assuming next will be a deck plate that goes on here, and that's what it looks like in step 53. Cut out this big deck member. I assume it's going to go here. And we got the other front deck glued in for the bowsprit. So this one piece that we're going to put deck boards on wants us to do the same as we did here. 0.5 millimeters by 4 millimeter strips of lumber, and we're going to need 20 of them on each side. So I got to cut those out of our stock here, 4 millimeter wide, and we've got a square mark drawn on the plate so we know where the beginning board's going to go in the middle there, and we'll work out toward the end from that after we get all of them cut. So we got to cut 40 of them all together, and I'm just using one as a template that's a little bit longer than the base piece, and we'll sand off or grind off the overhang, and using these to cut out of our stock. So let me get to cutting, and we'll glue that up. Just sort of paint the glue on there and stick them on one at a time. And after we get them all on there, we'll let it dry for a little while before we start taking the pencil and marking the seam in between the boards to give it a deck board effect like we did on the front. And you could even do nail or peg marks on there too with a pencil. A lot of people do different ways. As per instructions, I'm lining up with the edge of this notch here. The center line of my boards is just offset there. And every other board, we made a mark on there perpendicular. Now we're going back putting a mark to simulate a nail or a wooden peg in the end of the deck board where it would mount to the top of one of the framing beams. So for the long lines, I use the number 2 regular pencil, and along the edge of the ruler, and put the edge of the ruler just offset from each seam, just so slightly offset from the edge of the seam, and then drug that number 2 pencil across there 2 or 3 times, and then now we're creating the joints in the deck boards, and it's just as simple as marking every other one and then going back on both sides of that mark and putting the whatever you would call them, nail heads or wooden pegs, whatever they used at the time. This ship was built in 1669, so I think they probably used metal nails or what. But anyway, this section that's going to go on is all glued up. Got some glue on my rubber band there. That one's no good anymore. And there's a notch in this front framing member. Yep, that'll line up. The notch there. Just a little bit of finagling. So that's where that's gonna go. Step number 61. We gotta mark it up again across here. And then we'll be ready to go on to the next step. I don't know if it's gonna have us glue this on yet or not, but the plans didn't really show where I did the pencil mark long ways. It just showed the end of the boards. And I found on other builds that if you try to mark, these decks are all stained so you can't see it, but on the Bounty I think we did that a couple times. So let me finish marking that up and then we'll go on to the next step. Okay, we're finally getting toward the back of the ship. Yesterday we glued on that 54 and 55, and that got us down here. And that hooks on the front, or actually the back part of the ship. And then before I quit, I glued up 2 of these because you've got to let them dry before we stick them on there. So we got those done yesterday. Today I went ahead and punched out a bunch of the pieces. That we're going to need, and I'm going to make the numbers on this front or the back side here, so I'm going to let the glue go up all the way, a little bit in the back, and I did glue on that little piece there next to that yesterday. So I'd have a good starting point today with all these sections here. So with that on, these 2 pieces are going to link everything together and hold this one square. Now when I did that one there, I had used that little aluminum square to make that stay where I wanted. But now we're going to get these 2 braces in there. And I want to liberally glue them now before I stick it in there. This is a little tight fit. because we're going in 2, 3, 4, 5 different spots. And I don't know which one is stopping me. Oh, this one right here. There it goes. Make sure that's down all the way. I'm going to go back and redo a bunch of glue on that. That's Mufasa down there. Mufasa down there trying to dig a hole. It's a dog's natural instinct to live in a hole in the ground. So he's always digging a hole, even if he's on the tile floor. Once you get this far along, all them different ones that have to line up together starts to get a little tougher. As you can see, these last two pieces here are going to hold that square, so we don't have to worry about putting a square on it. But it wants us to go further in the next step here. $58. We already got 58A and 59A glued together. And we just stuck these two in 59. So now it's these two, which I sort of, after get them out of the plywood, I just got these stuck together like this. So before we stick them down in there and put some more supports on, we want to get glue on that. this goes pretty quick. So you want to make sure you get a good amount of glue on everything. And then we're going to pre-glue the two slots that those are going to go into. This one doesn't go down real far, so we don't need to go all the way to the bottom, but we do want to go all the way to the top. And then that should fit in a key on that keel piece. Yep, like that. Just want to make sure it goes in there. Then we're going to add glue out here. And try to put some kind of clamp or rubber band on it. Keep that in place while it dries. So, how do we want to do that? I'm sanding the two faces of this block. I don't know if that's going to help it. Stay square or not. Get it up there where it butts up against the yeah, that'll work, I think. And there is a square point here. So you should probably measure with the ruler to make sure we leave it in the right spot. That ruler has got inches on it, and I don't like inches when I'm measuring something small like this. So that's 45 millimeters. So gonna be 22 and a half. That's close. I'm looking for my spectacles. Here we go. It's hard to get a good reading there. Well, we're definitely 22. There's 21 there. 21 and a half. So I'm going to go back toward you a little bit now. 21, a little bit shy, 21, too much. Okay, we're going to leave it right like that. All right. Now, zooming you into my screen. Got that where we think we want it. And I'm looking, this member here is 62. Here's 62. One on each side. Those are going to go down here and go into a key over on that end. But it says don't glue. See that symbol up there with a line going through it is telling us to put 62 in there, but don't glue it. So we just stick that key into the plate there on the end. Verify this is going to line up. Yes, it did. Put a clamp on it to hold it in place. And do the same on this side. And there's already a cutout in each one of these ribs for this. And that's probably why they don't want us to glue it, because the ribs can move back and forth on there. I'm just putting that on to keep it in place while we put the cross beams in. And 63 and 64, it tells us to glue those into 62. So I want glue on this face here and on the sides. So we'll just keep plugging away like this, putting these pieces on. So I got like 5 or 6 more pieces to go. These will do the same thing in the next level up. Some more cross braces. And also, when we finished up yesterday, they wanted us to put a coat of varnish on that deck, so it's not glued in yet. I just stuck it up there for now, but I also did a coat of varnish on this one here in the front. So I'm just going to keep gluing away. You can see these go together fairly simple, just as long as you look ahead, see what parts you need, get them out, get them sanded up, pre-fit them. That's one thing I did do before I turned the camera on this morning, is pre-fit probably 90%, 80% of these pieces before I started running the camera. So I'm going to go in there now and add glue to all the places we just stuck on there and put the last few pieces on. And that might be it for this week. Thanks for watching. Mufasa. Why are you digging down there? You can't dig through the floor. You just like digging? Now we're cooking with gas. The finished product in the wind. fit in that way.